Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Powerful Man Show. I am your host, Doug Holt, with my co-host, Tim, the Powerful Man Matthews.
Ooh,
What's happening, brother?
fingers are pointing and everything. Yeah, I'm doing great. I'm doing great. I'm wearing my new. This arrived today for me, so I thought I'd wear it.
Well, for those
Looking
that can't
sharp.
see the video, Tim is wearing a Powerful Man hoodie. Looking good, buddy.
New one, by the way. The color. I like the color. It's graphite was the name that Omar gave it. Yeah, I think it's just a posh word for grey.
Yep, I'm looking. Well, I'm looking for my mine to arrive in the mail any day.
Yep, keep looking.
Yeah.
So what I wanted to bring to the table today, Mr. Hall, it's great to have you back as well.
Thank you.
It's great to have you back. So anyway, yeah, I put a post on my personal profile and on the business page, in fact, last week, and I asked my fans and followers, and those are the Powerful Man too, what is the number one reason that marriages break down, specifically, for entrepreneurs? And there was some great suggestions, the usual kind of stuff: money, sex, lack of communication. They were the big three, really. And I can understand why people think that they're often the biggest reason, and I'd love to get your take on this in a moment. But in my opinion, that isn't the biggest reason why marriages break down. They're more the symptoms, right? They're the symptoms of the marriage breaking down. It's kind of like going to the doctor, right? You go to the doctor, you walk in, you tell him what's wrong with you, you tell him the symptoms. I don't know about your doctor, Doug, but over here, they prescribe medication to treat the symptoms, but do very little to actually deal with the root cause of what's coming up, right? It's the same with the breakdown in the marriages that we see for the men that come to us. And in my opinion, the number one reason why marriages break down for most for the businessmen we work with, is because the guys are caught in this cycle of forever chasing success, right? And no matter what they achieve, they're just never satisfied. And the thing that really got me thinking about this was yesterday morning. I was in the sauna at the gym speaking to a good friend of mine, and he was sharing with me his process that he's going through right now. It really got me thinking about where I was several years ago, and I was there. I was that guy. I thought that money was going to fix my problem. So what did I do? I became addicted to work. And then I thought, I then would hide it with women as well. This was a little bit before this. I'd hide it with women. And I'm embarrassed to say, I slept with a lot of women, but it never meant anything, right? I was there. What are you laughing at? Can't believe it, right? You think I'm lying, just getting bonus points. I was there with the women going through the action, but it wasn't anything like the sex I have with Amelia. It was just a way to fill this void. And whether it went from money or work or women or even drugs, I did it there. I can remember the night that I overdosed. It was like I had this bottomless pit that I was shoveling, trying to fill. And no matter what I took or how much of it just wasn't enough. Same with money. Now, for our guys, we call that the void, right? And the reason why I want to bring this up is because maybe some of our listeners are struggling with their marriage, thinking that it's the money or the sex or the communication. Going to therapy, which doesn't work for most of our guys, because it's kind of like getting in your car, putting your keys in the ignition, pulling off the side of the street to drive, but looking in the rear view mirror, trying to go forward, just constantly digging up the dirt of the past. It keeps them there. So in the void, there's then 5 agonies, right, that I was cycling through, and we see the guys cycle through too. The first one being greed, that they're just never satisfied. It doesn't mean that they're greedy guys or there's something wrong with them. They're just never satisfied. No matter how much money they make, it's never enough. No matter how much sex they have, it's never good enough. And it's greed, which then leads to the second agony of anger, because they get home on an evening and struggling to switch off from this constant drive and feeling exhausted and empty, that then start snapping at the kids or been distant with their wife or spending the night on social media. And they feel bad about that, which then leads to the third agony of shame, right? And they'll try and then switch off by pouring a glass of wine or a cocktail or two, or working even more, right? You've been there, I've been there. And then because of the shame, not knowing how to handle it, they then do what? They retreat and pull away into the fourth agony of loneliness. And then the fifth agony is an uncertainty, because they know the business can't continue to run like this, snapping at their staff, waking up in the morning with a foggy mind, going into the office, hiding out really in front of their laptop, but not really getting any productive work done. And then going home and snapping at the wife and kids and missing dinner and, not being very fun to be around. So it's like, well, how long is this going to continue? Which domino is going to fall first? So when I saw this post, it really got me thinking, well, what is that number one reason that marriages break down? So I'm curious, what's your experience with this? What do you think?
Yeah. So one is, I think you're spot on with all the symptoms and everything you're seeing going on. However, I look at it slightly differently. And this is why we should probably prep for these shows. No, but I see it slightly differently, and it could be a difference in, one I'm married to is, different ages. But what I'm seeing with the guys and the people that I talk to are really successful business owners and business leaders is they've lost themselves. And I think the diving into the work, I've done it, Tim, you've done it, as you just said. Most of the men listening to this either are in that phase or have been in that phase in one time or another in their life. But I think that, again, is another symptom to the problem. And I think what happens along the way, well, it's kind of a chicken or the egg, right? What I think is happening along the way is a lot of these guys lost themselves and they're struggling for something to grasp a hold of. And I think, though, when I was in that mix, it'd be hard for me to identify that. But I think they've identified themselves as business owner or business leader or entrepreneur or whatever it is. And that's become their identity. And as such, they've clinged to that hustle mode. And then when they get home, right, they can't turn it off. And that's when it falls into everything that you just said, right? Coming home, not being able to switch off, working more, constantly checking the phone, being disconnected because they're stressed out, because they're, everything that's going on. And then they lose the gap between them and their wife grows wider and wider and wider. Until one time you look around and you haven't had sex in a week or 2 weeks or months, and they find themselves laying next to a woman they don't even know anymore. And that woman doesn't know them. And fear paralyzes you, right? Because you're scared. What do I do if I do this, if I do that? And you and your partner start to go separate ways. And we see that a lot within the Powerful Man. You see it more than I do because you talk to so many men from all over the world on a daily basis. But even from the guys in the brotherhood and their past stories, we see it so often, and it's not their fault. It's just the way society is. We went from an agrarian culture and society to an industrial society where the man is supposed to go off to the mill or to the mine and work. And then they come home, and what are you supposed to do as a man? You're supposed to shut up and not complain about yourself, not speak your mind, just shut up and mind your own business and go to work the next day and do it again. And really become a cog in the wheel. Now, as things have changed, Tim, in our society, I think the opportunities for men have just blown up. We can do anything. You and I travel all over the world. We work, we run companies. But at the same time, that mentality has not changed quite as much.
I love it. You raise a great point. I think we're saying the same thing, in my opinion. And, you raise a great point where you're saying, what are you smirking for? You're just thinking I'm latching onto a great idea. You raise a great point where they get into bed and, they're sleeping next to a woman, and before they know it, the woman doesn't even know who they are, but they don't know who they are either because they do lose themselves in business. Yeah. And that's where the five agonies come in, right? And no man's land. Absolutely. And, it's a great question, right, that someone asked me many years ago was, if I was to take away your business tomorrow, who would you be?
Oh, great question. Great question. Guys listening, ask that self of yourself, right?
Yeah.
Wow. Great question. Was that me?
Initially, right, when he asked me that, oh my God, my body just stiffened up. I felt the panic come over me, like, holy and he stood his ground too. He wasn't backing away until I answered it, and I couldn't answer it. I couldn't.
Yeah.
And this is one of the reasons that the lack of intimacy that the guys experience when they come to us, because not only are they in no man's land going through the 5 agonies because they've lost themselves in business, they stop doing the things like the hobbies, the interests that they were doing when they first got with their wife, that formed part of the attraction, right?
Yep.
That formed part of the personality. So they start giving these things up, and that's then where the wives can start to lose respect for them, because they aren't respecting themselves. And when the respect goes, the trust goes, along with other things as well.
Yeah, it's so true. And what came to my mind here, Tim, is back in my early 20s, I had an injury that was going to keep me out of doing anything active for 6 months. And at the time, I really identified as an athlete. And I think a lot of the guys relate to this, because a lot of business leaders are ex-athletes that have transitioned and taken that competitive edge into business. But for me, as soon as that happened, I went into a state of depression because I didn't know who I was.
Wow.
I always thought of myself as this, in my mind, this amazing athlete. But all the people I hung out with were athletes, and I identified myself in those circles, and I was no longer in them. And I was like, wow, I had to rewrite my own identity, and then scramble to get back into sports as soon as I could. It's probably why I played until I was 37. But the point is, it's the same with business owners. So if you take a business owner's business away, who are you? And, we talk about marriages breaking up, but, what I want to ask the guys out there is, do you really know who your wife is? Not who your wife is that you married, but who she is today, right? You've changed. So it'd be stupid to think that she hasn't changed. Her ideas haven't changed. And you're probably running on a model or programming based on agreements that you've made years, maybe even decades in the past about who each of you were. If you got married in your 20s and you're in your 40s now or 30s, I mean, you're different people completely, hormonally. You're also different people based on the experiences and maturity that you have. And for the men coming in and listening to this, if any of this resonates, this is time for you to reclaim who you are, right? And Tim, you're going, when this is out, you'll already be there, but you're going to the next alpha reset. And that's what the alpha reset's really about, is resetting and reclaiming the men that are there. And so you're going to see this firsthand with these business leaders who are going to be stepping more into the men that they've always known that they are, and their partners can see, right? That's the funny thing. You and I talk about this all the time. Arthur, we get on a call, is, our partners can see us way before we realize or have self-realizations of what's going on within us. And that's the same for the guys listening to this or watching this right now, is your partner can see it. And if you've drifted apart, they know it, and they probably knew it way before you did. And really what they want is for you to be the leader and the man, and stepping into your power and stepping up and not making excuses, and stop spinning your wheels and take a real risk, and go for it, right? This is your one shot, and this is the time to do it. And, look at all the movies out there, Tim. What's the sexy guy, right? The sexy guy is out there taking care of himself first and other people as well. And he's also someone who's taking risks, capital risks, emotional risks, and also risks investing time. And that's really, as men, what we get to do. We don't have to go to a factory every single day anymore. This is our chance to take care of ourselves.
I love it. Now, you raise a great point with the women see so much before we do, right? That's
scary.
What keeps them around sometimes, isn't it? And that's what also pisses them off sometimes, quite frankly, that I see you, so just step. And when the guys can't, or not they can step, when the guys won't step would be a better word. When the guys won't step, that's when she's like, she can no longer then trust, because, he's not there.
Yeah, she has to play the masculine role, right? She's going to step into her own masculinity for security. And if you've drifted apart, she's going to start thinking, one, do I need another man? Two, how am I going to financially support myself? Three, how am I going to get my needs filled if you can't do it? And she's going to step into her masculinity to protect herself. And then you have one or two things, right? You're going to battle. It's two masculine people battling, like two guys walking into a bar or pub, and they like mad dogs, their eyes reach and they both know it's game on, right? You've all seen it, you know it. You've also been in it. And a boardroom's the same thing. I walk into a boardroom, right away you can pick up the alpha, and right away you guys lock eyes, and you either become good friends if you got the skills to do that, and great allies, which you should do, or you go right at each other and it becomes adversarial pretty quickly going through that. So you have that thing is going to happen. Two alphas, your wife and you going at it, or you're going to submit. And most men end up submitting because it's just easier, right? And they sedate, porn, alcohol, drugs, other women, working more.
Working more, yeah.
Facebook, what have you. So they sedate and they become submissive to the woman, which is for 99% of women is the least sexy thing you can do. And you're being submissive. And you can look at this, it's kind of like, oh, the wife's always right. Like those kind of old sayings that people say. No. Like you want to be a nice man, be gentle, but you don't have to submit every time.
So true. So coming out of this episode, I'm seeing two clear things that listeners can do. I'd love to see what you think. First one is answer that question. Who are you? If we were to take your business away tomorrow, who would you be? What passions would you have? What would you do? Who are you? And the second one is, who is your wife? Who is she?
Yeah, I think it's critical. And if you don't know the answers, guys, this is time to take massive action, because if you don't know those answers to either of those, then somebody else is going to be answering them for you. And it may not be the answer that you want. So this is time to reset and reclaim, as we always say, and move forward and take power back and be that powerful man.
Yeah. So, bringing it back full circle, the number one reason why marriages break down specifically for business owners is what we're talking about here, right? It's not the money. All of those were great suggestions that I saw on the post. Money, sex, either a lack of sex or, the quality of sex, communication, wires getting crossed or not being able to communicate and so on. But they're the symptoms, like we've said. So if you're listening to this and, this is resonating for you, like we've said, answer those two questions. That would be super smart. And also, maybe head over to thealphareset.com. If you want to see more about how to actually help businessmen to reconnect with their wives so they can, grow their business without sacrificing their health or happiness or relationships, then that might be for you. So head over there to thealphareset.com. Doug, any parting words before we leave this episode?
Yeah, guys, take action. If any of this resonates with you, do exactly what Tim said. Don't waste another minute. Gosh, when I look back in my younger times, Tim, I wish somebody would have kicked me in the butt and told me to get in action quicker. It's my only regret. So gentlemen, I'm asking you and imploring you to do the same thing, not only for your spouse, your wife, and your family, but also for yourself. Just take action right now. Push pause on this. Go back, rewatch it if you need to, but take action today.
Yeah, and as I heard a line today that I'm going to leave you guys with, I wish you all the success that you're prepared to work for.
Oh, I like it. We'll end it on that note, gentlemen. We'll see you next time on The Powerful Man Show.